WrestleMania 42 is no longer in New Orleans. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Wrestling Observer Live. Horrible news coming out of WWE Universe where they're going back to Las Vegas reportedly for WrestleMania 42. They are not going to do it in New Orleans. New Orleans instead gets a UFC fight between Dustin Poirier and Max Holloway, and they also get Money in the Bank, the pay-per-view. So, it sucks, obviously, not to have WrestleMania. I think it's a bigger picture, though, of what's happening with the WWE right now. And I think a lot of fans, including myself, are really turned off by the product. And WWE, it's just becoming, it's a commercial within itself. They have taken the wrestling out of wrestling. It's a business. It's a TV show. And the last thing they care about is wrestling. And we're seeing that with John Cena. We're seeing that with The Rock. We're seeing that with the way that Raw and SmackDown have been delivered. We're seeing that with the ads all over the ring. We're seeing that now with the WWE putting WrestleMania again in Las Vegas. So we're going to listen to the Wrestling Observer and react along the way.
Now, some big news, and we actually don't know the extent of this yet, but we will very soon. WWE, as reported by Brandon Thurston, obtained a statement from the Greater New Orleans Sport Foundation that claims the city will be hosting WrestleMania not next year, but in a, quote, later unspecified year.
Yeah.
So this is a really big story because...
yeah, it's huge.
They announced WrestleMania in New Orleans.
I was there. They announced it. The Rock announced it at SmackDown and announced that they were going to have WrestleMania was coming to New Orleans. I mean, this was like done. This wasn't like, oh yeah, it was a rumor. The Rock announced it. They had the graphics for it. They had everything for it. And then a couple weeks later or a couple months later, boom, never mind, we're going back to Vegas. Huge news. I mean, I can't think of the last time this happened. I know that they changed the venues for WrestleMania, whatever it was, when Hogan and Sergeant Slaughter were in the main event, but that was a totally different situation. This is like, this is kind of unprecedented.
And not only did they announce a WrestleMania in New Orleans, but, a lot of the independent groups, tickets or hotels were purchased and buildings were rented.
Well, he's right, too, about the independents. A lot of independent wrestling groups make their shows the week of WrestleMania because they know wrestling fans will be in the city and whatever. So this is a crazy domino effect. And yeah, as far as the economic impact of New Orleans, all of a sudden that's an enormous event, a 2-day event. So you're talking about, 100,000 people or more going to be there for Friday or Saturday, Sunday, probably get in Friday, maybe get in Thursday. It's just the economic difference is serious.
And, this is more than just WWE, canceling WrestleMania in New Orleans. I mean, this is going to have a huge effect on all of the other promotions that had already made plans to run New Orleans over WrestleMania weekend. So, Obviously, the deal here is they're getting a better deal somewhere else. And there are 3 places that are being rumored as of today. And, of course, they can just cancel their plans. But, I'm talking like, it depends on what the deal they made with particular buildings. Can they get the entire deposit back? Can they not? It's one thing with hotels, but it might be something different with renting out buildings and everything that goes into putting together a series of shows over WrestleMania weekend. So anyway, the 3 rumored locations for WrestleMania next year are now London.
Yeah, so before the Las Vegas news came out, but originally I heard London, Vegas, and Saudi.
Mexico,
wow.
And Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
So
I never heard Mexico.
I see a lot of people in the chat are presuming it's going to be Saudi Arabia. The thing with Saudi Arabia is getting the Royal Rumble. And I suppose they could also change the Royal Rumble, do the Royal Rumble somewhere else and then do WrestleMania in Saudi. But I mean, if you ask me, my gut tells me that Saudi is the least likely of the three possibilities. I think
that would have been too on the nose. I mean, it's easy hindsight now, but I think people would have been like, man, this is too much of a money grab. This is too much of this is too distant from wrestling, which the product already is. The actual product is borderline disgusting with how blatant and obvious it is, as it's just this weird. It's not wrestling at all. I mean, it like Travis Scott's involvement, the TKO involvement, like I said, the ads all over the ring. Each match is sponsored by something. I mean, there's a Clash of Clans match, then there's a Slim Jim match, and there's a whatever else match, and you're not even sure what the hell's going on. The Rock and John Cena have basically turned their characters into just another movie character. So we see John Cena acting a certain way during wrestling or during the shows, but then he acts differently outside of it, and it's acting like, oh, he's just playing a character, which eliminates the disbelief, which is the whole point of watching wrestling anyways. We hear The Rock talk about heels and baby faces and working and shoots. We've seen WWE now putting out documentaries where they go behind the scenes and they're showing you kind of how the sausage is made. And, I'm not saying that it has to be this like kayfabe old school thing, but I don't want to see how David Copperfield is doing his tricks. I just want to go to the show. I don't want to know that Chris Angel is a totally different guy when he's home. I know he is. I know he's not actually who his personality is on stage, but it kind of comes along with it. There has to be this era of disbelief for it to work. There has to be some disbelief in a magic show or a magician in order for it to work. If I see, David Copperfield's a bad example. If David Copperfield has this mystique on stage, and all of a sudden I'm watching documentaries of how he does his tricks, and I see how he's doing it all, and then I see him on Twitter or Instagram or whatever acting completely different, it ruins the whole product. And, if he comes out and he's like, all right, this next trick is sponsored by Slim Jim, and he's sawing a Slim Jim in half or whatever, like, at a certain point, it dilutes the product. And I think WWE has greatly diluted their product right now since WrestleMania. I've been watching wrestling since I was probably about 7 years old, really diligently. I'm talking like not missing a Raw, not missing a pay-per-view, whatever. The product right now is as bad as I can remember. And that's saying something because there's been some bad times. It is hard to watch what their product and their current, not just the product, but their current delivery. The current delivery, a good example too, is leading up to WrestleMania. Leading up to WrestleMania, they did like a month straight of international shows. So it messed up the time difference. It messed up everything. Everything was pre-recorded. And all of a sudden you felt like you weren't even, the build-up to WrestleMania wasn't even there.
Very good chance. London. It's been talked about for a long time. Obviously, as soon as AEW did a giant crowd in Wembley, you knew that WWE was going to want to go in and break that record. And the other option, which I think, especially because the whole situation with the purchase of AAA, and it's more than just wanting a presence in Mexico. They obviously want a big presence in Mexico, but also they want to be number one in Mexico. They want to beat CMLL. I mean, Aztec Stadium for WrestleMania, I don't think is out of the question. So I presume we're going to find out fairly soon where WrestleMania is going to be next year, but it is not going to be in New Orleans. And, whether it's in London or whether it's in Mexico, I mean, there's a reason for this, and that is either we're going after AEW or we're going after CMLL. So we'll find out.
And the reason ended up being because they believe that they can make way more money in Las Vegas, which they're probably right. But that's it. That is a great descriptor of how WWE is currently running the business. as a business, not as a wrestling show trying to make a profit or a wrestling show trying to make the best product possible. It is first and foremost, they're trying to squeeze every dollar out as they can. And that's it. And the fans are suffering. And you may say, well, James, of course it's a business. Like, it's the same as a restaurant or something, where I understand you're trying to make as much money as possible, but when you start to screw the fans or screw over the consumer or whatever just to do that, it bleeds over in a negative way. And it's now doing that.
Who's top of the list for this coming year? So that's the update on that. If you made plans for New Orleans, well, I mean, you can still go to New Orleans. It's fun, but you ain't going to see WrestleMania there.
Yeah, it sucks because, I mean, obviously I live in New Orleans, and I was thinking, man, this is going to be one hell of a year, like leading up to WrestleMania. I'll really focus on the wrestling content, and then we'll go to WrestleMania, we'll do a whole thing, and now it's like, okay, well, that's in the back burner. But, I mean, it just, the whole thing sucks. It really does. And I really hope, you know what it is? It's like when a bunch of it's like you hear this with sports teams, where like a soccer team will be bought by an American business who doesn't know anything about soccer. And what happens? They lose their identity. They lose their culture. They may make more money, but they lose the heart and they lose everything that makes it a soccer club. You know, it's like if I bought a sewing company or something. It's like, I don't know anything about sewing. So I'm just all of a sudden focused on how do I make as much money as possible. I don't focus on what's best for the industry, what's best for my customers. What do they expect? There's no vision. There's no heart. There's no nothing. It's just strictly this like cold money thing. And that's exactly what WWE is. It's being run by a huge company who could care less about wrestling or the history of the WWE or the fans or the kayfabe or whatever. And it's being completely flipped inside out. I mean, again, I'm not saying that we have to have this full kayfabe, old school, whatever. But I think it's got to the point where we're too flippantly using heel, babyface, work, shoot. We're instead of peeking behind the curtain, we are opening the curtain wide open. And we're having The Rock or John Cena openly say, like, yeah, I'm just playing a character. That's just a character. And then they're going doing Make-A-Wish stuff. And then they go back to Raw and they act like the bad guy. And then we see him on the Good Morning America the next day. And it's like, okay, this has now become hokey because you're basically making the whole thing a farce. You're making the whole thing a parody. And wrestling, or WWE, has become a parody. It's become a parody of wrestling. And even if you watch the show, even if you watch Raw, every single character hates the fans. Every single heel is, the fans don't deserve this, the fans are dumb, the fans are stupid, the fans have turned their back on me. And so not only is the company taking a dump on you, but then you watch the show, and for 2.5 hours, you get to watch every promo where the heel is telling you that you're a clown. And after a while, it's like, damn, maybe I am a clown for watching this. I've watched every Raw since WrestleMania. And you got Becky Lynch cutting the same promo as Charlotte Flair, who's cutting the same promo as The New Day, who's cutting the same promo as Seth Rollins, who's cutting the same promo as Logan Paul, who's cutting the same promo as John Cena. And it's just like, man, what did I do? All I'm doing is watching the show. So WWE has lost their way. And this is unfortunate that New Orleans has lost WrestleMania, but I think it's a bigger problem in just their delivery of the product, their dilution of the product, and their complete lack of respect for the product. And I just hate to see it. But all right, let me know in the comments what you think. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.